"She was never allowed back on the Johnny Carson show after this," is the kind of headline that suggests scandal, controversy, or unforgettable drama. One of the most circulated stories connected to such a title involves Joan Rivers, a pioneering comedian and television personality whose relationship with Johnny Carson ended in a way that shocked Hollywood and shaped the future of late-night television. Contrary to myths that often suggest some outrageous or inappropriate behavior led to her being banned, the real story is more about loyalty, ambition, and the strict unwritten rules of show business. Joan Rivers had been a regular guest and guest host on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson for over 2 decades. Carson was not only the long-running host of the program but also one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. He had the ability to make or break careers with a single appearance. When Rivers first appeared on the show in 1965, she impressed Carson so much that he famously told her on air, "You're gonna be a star." Over time, she became one of his favorite guests and eventually his permanent guest host, a role she held throughout the 1980s in an era when few women were allowed into the upper echelons of comedy and television. Joan Rivers' achievements were monumental. She wrote her own material, maintained a unique comedic voice, and brought a sharp wit that resonated with both audiences and critics. She often credited Carson with helping to launch her career, and the two enjoyed what appeared to be a warm, professional relationship. However, things changed in 1986 when Joan Rivers made a bold career move. Fox was launching a new television network and offered her the chance to host her own late-night talk show, The Late Show starring Joan Rivers. At the time, Carson had no plans to step down, and Rivers believed she had reached a ceiling at NBC. She had reportedly asked NBC executives if she was being considered as Carson's eventual successor. When the answer was a firm no, she began looking elsewhere. Fox's offer was unprecedented. Rivers would become the first woman to host a late-night network talk show, a landmark opportunity in television history. But instead of breaking the news to Carson personally, she accepted the deal and the announcement was made through the press. Carson found out from the media and was reportedly blindsided and hurt. He saw her move as a betrayal, feeling that someone he had mentored and championed had gone behind his back. When Rivers tried to call him to explain, he refused to take her call. From that day forward, Carson never spoke to her again. The fallout was swift and harsh. Carson effectively banned Rivers from ever appearing on The Tonight Show again, a decision that was maintained even after he left the show in 1992. His successors, Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien, also did not invite Rivers on, reportedly out of respect for Carson's wishes. The ban became legendary, casting a shadow over Rivers' legacy. Despite her groundbreaking achievements, Joan Rivers' show on Fox ultimately failed, due in part to internal conflicts and network inexperience. She was fired from her own show within a year, and her husband Edgar Rosenberg, who had helped produce it, tragically died by suicide shortly after. The personal and professional toll on Rivers was enormous. She found herself blacklisted, struggling to find work, and grieving both a failed dream and a devastating loss. But Joan Rivers was resilient. She reinvented herself through the 1990s and 2000s, returning to stand-up, writing books, and ultimately finding a new audience with her fashion commentary and appearances on reality television. It wasn't until February 17, 2014, nearly 3 decades later, that Joan Rivers was finally invited back to The Tonight Show by new host Jimmy Fallon. Fallon broke the unofficial ban, and Rivers made a brief cameo appearance during the show's debut episode. Carson had died in 2005, and the show had moved on under new leadership, but the moment was still emotionally charged and symbolic. Rivers passed away later that same year, in September 2014. While she never reconciled with Johnny Carson, her return to The Tonight Show was seen by many as a long-overdue acknowledgement of her place in television history. In the end, the controversy that led to her being banned was not about scandal or on-air misbehavior. It was about the cost of ambition, the fragility of personal loyalties, and how power dynamics in the entertainment industry often penalize those who dare to break from the mold.